All right, on today's program, the rise of city Wi-Fi in the U.S. Midwest. My guest today, Jon Salisbury of Nexigen, has created an award-winning city Wi-Fi product and a service to go with it. Find out what that is right after the short break. All right, welcome back, everybody. My name is Claus Hetting, and I'm the host of this program. It's called Wi-Fi Now TV, the interview program that brings you all the great stories and not least all the great people from across the Wi-Fi industry. And I have to tell you, one of the most enjoyable things I get to do as a host of this program is to nearly stumble upon and discover, if you like, great new Wi-Fi projects. So today we'll be speaking to Jon Salisbury. He is the CTO of a company called Nexigen based in the Cincinnati area. And he and his team has created a remarkable new city Wi-Fi product called Milo, SmartLink Milo. We'll get you all the details about that in just a moment. So before that, I want to make sure that you know that we're taking Wi-Fi Now, the expo and conference, to the great city of Washington, D.C. this April 18th to 20th. And as some of you might know, we were there last year and we had a great show there. So we're going to do it again in about three months' time. So we're open for business, meaning that you can already reserve your ticket, and if you're interested in exhibiting or some other role at Wi-Fi Now DC, you better be quick because we're filling up. And by the way, Jon Salisbury and his team will be there, so there's going to be lots of exciting new products and solutions on the program. So for all the details, go to wifinowevents.com/USA, and if you have any questions, drop me a line at klaus@wifinowevents.com. Always delighted to hear from the viewers. So before I introduce Jon, I just want to say a few things because we're talking about city Wi-Fi, and I want to bring Jon on, but I want to give you a bit of perspective. So this is a short roundup of just some of the cities that are working on major public Wi-Fi kiosk type projects. Link New York City, the famous one in New York, 7,000 units. Miami has announced they're going to be doing something similar. London, UK has announced a similar project for 2017 with BT. Chicago announced last week they're going to be doing something similar. And last but not least, Newport, Kentucky, which is the award-winning project we'll be talking about here with the SmartLink product and with Nexigen. So there's a ton of things going on. And I see this truly as a mega trend. It seems that the monetization challenge that so many of us have been talking about for such a long time has largely been resolved, at least in this case, finally. So here to discuss all of that with us is SmartLink founder Jon Salisbury. Jon, welcome to the show. Delighted to see you.
Thanks for having me here. I've heard so many good things about you and your event, and it's an absolute honor.
Well, we're great to have you, and I should say you're also coming to DC, so we'll see you there for sure. And I was going to say, bring your friends. So, but before we get into that, give us a short introduction to Nexigen, SmartLink, and I think the unit that you've designed is called Milo, right?
That's correct. So the story starts back in 2003 with me and a fellow member of the pre-Best Buy Geek Squad. We were tech bench engineers together, and we thought of this concept where you could basically sell computing and resources, not by the server, but you could slice the server into many sections. So virtualization. And in 2003, we launched the cloud platform, which Nexigen was founded on. And that was pre-VMware and all the virtualization. So we come from a very technical background. Since then, we've grown into a traditional IT services business, and we have traditional cloud services, in the big public spaces like Azure and all that stuff. And then we have cybersecurity services and products that we've developed specifically in that space. And then we also have traditional managed services solutions, and now IoT and Wi-Fi, managed Wi-Fi solutions. Mm-hmm. So from that, we grew to about 50 employees from a very humble beginning. And we now have bought a software company that now gives us another 20 developers in our same building. So it's a lot of good minds in the same place with kind of diverse schools of thought. And we decided that kids in high school needed more engagement with technology, because as we were hiring these younger kids and they're right out of college or co-oping, we questioned them on how their high school experience was. So we learned that it wasn't very much improved from what we had. And we were really surprised by that. So they didn't take apart computers. They hadn't built web servers. They hadn't played with Wi-Fi. They hadn't set up mesh networks. So we decided to start a program at the high school. It's called Tech Defenders. And that is where we give one of our engineers out to the school on loan for 12 weeks, 3 hours once a week. And they go into a classroom of 10 to 15 students and they teach them all these cool technology things over that course of time. That then started the dialogue directly with the school. And we found out then that the school had a major problem. They had just delivered a one-to-one solution for the students throughout the school and iPads and laptops and so forth. And we found out that a lot of the iPads were staying at school when the kids went home. And that was unacceptable to us to hear about, because we found out that the reason was that the kids couldn't afford internet at their house. So it was a major digital divide problem, smack right in your face. You get to see, right in your city. Newport, where we're at, is right on the river of Ohio River. We're 11 blocks from the Ohio River, so right next to Cincinnati. There's a lot of wealth in the area. It's just there's targeted centers of poverty. So we came out with we realized that we needed to come out with a solution to give these kids accessibility into internet services and gathering information from home. So we started a whole project around that, which has now evolved into the productization of the Milo unit, which has become a new business.
Right, that's an amazing story, and what a great community effort. It just shows where that can lead once you start something like that. The amount of goodwill obviously created must be immense. So tell us a little bit about the unit that you created, because in some ways it's familiar. There are similar units out there, but I think tell us what's different, but I think we have a picture of it.
Yeah, the Milo unit is not brand new in concept or construct. I mean, kiosks exist for a long time. So to solve the digital divide problem, we introduced, we formed a partnership with Cincinnati Bell, and we're able to deliver around, and it's going to turn out to be around 100 access points plus around the city, maybe 150, 200. For our geographic area, that's a lot. And the Milo unit we kind of looked at the market and what it had, and it seemed as if most of the kiosks were doing one thing. They wanted to pay for themselves. It wasn't designed to increase the amount of information like data collection hubs to the point where it would actually benefit urban planning, research institutes, and all these other types of things. So we then decided to load this thing up with sensors on top of Wi-Fi so that it can collect a lot more information. And then we wanted to democratize that information and allow accessibility into research institutes and so forth. And it's interesting that our solution has immediately attracted universities, and universities are already using that data and working on grants for other smart city initiatives. So it's already had a cascaded good effect on just one installed so far, and with many more to come.
So, right. So you're already making a huge amount of progress. Can you tell us a little bit about how you make a project like this sustainable? Because free Wi-Fi has always had that problem, right? So you offer it for free, and somehow you have to make sure there's obviously money, first of all, for putting them up and maintenance and so on. And hopefully at the end of that, also a little bit of profit. How have you worked that?
Well, the first thing you have to do in any business is reduce latency and reduce cost. And usually cost is tied to latency, right? So we are lucky enough to have invested in a carbon fiber manufacturing company called Beast Carbon. So I'm a direct owner in that organization. So I own my supply chain. So I own the whole stack from hardware build, kiosk build, all the way up into platform software, all the way up into the application layer. So we can really, when you do that and you own supply chain, it just changes even for one unit, it's just tremendous. So we called some of the other large kiosk vendors out there and just, to try to get pricing. And the pricing was almost impossible to monetize over time because it was just such a high cost. So we were able to get the cost down to a really low point. That's one. And then two is then maximize your potential for value, right? So this is still a new project, but we're making inroads into so many places that we're getting, there's debt associated with installs, right? And it's about securing that debt. So we are finding multiple ways to secure the debt. I could go into detail in a couple of different directions.
Right. So what I'm interested in here is also your comment, maybe comment a little bit on what I started by saying, in that this is really a megatrend, I think, because there seems to be projects popping up all over America with regards to this type of implementation of free Wi-Fi, and also in Europe. Would you agree with that? It seems to me a really big opportunity to address the city Wi-Fi market.
Huge, because you're not just addressing the Wi-Fi, you're getting all these other value exchange opportunities. And when you're talking about smart city becoming such a hot topic, we realize that when people deploy smart cities, they plan to plan, and they spend tens of $millions to plan, right? So there's no standardizations, right? And there's not a lot of rigidity when you're talking about an RFP coming out from a city for a smart city. What's happening is that a vendor is calling the city and telling them they have a solution, and then they're going down a specific line with that solution. Well, then 3 more vendors do the same thing, and you end up with 4 lines, 4 different applications disconnected in silos of data. So what we're hoping is that with a kiosk type solution and data collection hub, you're gaining intelligence on the front end, right? You're giving Wi-Fi, you're gaining intelligence though, you're providing these value exchanges. That intelligence then feeds up the stack into the connectivity piece and into the use cases, so you can make good decisions about, yeah, we should change the lights here, the traffic lights here, to trajectory-based lighting so that we can help traffic flow. We should put smart parking here because we have actual quantifiable data now and a real-time census that allows us to project that.
So, but one of the core, one part of the foundation, I should say, of the model that you use is also ad-based, correct?
Absolutely. So we have advertisements that will display. Now, we're not using the entire screen real estate for that. We actually zone off the screen in multiple sections. So one section is dedicated to wayfinding, one section is dedicated to city messaging, and then one section is dedicated towards advertisements. Now, we're looking at proximity-based triggers. So when you walk towards the actual unit, it can detect how close you are, and then it can switch into another mode, which is all about like wayfinding and navigation. So large street maps and things like that. So those are definitely things we're looking at.
So I'm assuming here that there's a need for local governments, local cities to get involved in order for such a project as yours to get off the ground. How hard or how easy is it to get cities interested in this?
Well, cities are super interested. They just they need education. So what we've really worked hard on outside of just selling kiosks is just creating a standard model, which you can be followed and you get standard authentication mechanisms, standard connectivity principles, standard information gathering and repository. And then from there, you can then deliver applications with positive outcomes that will be cohesive. So the other place, though, is not just cities, it's connected campuses and what we're calling connected consumer campuses, which are malls. So those are all sections: connected consumer campuses, connected campuses at universities, and cities are all places we look to interact with. In a university session, we'll pivot a bit, and we will most likely let students on the platform to develop some of their own mechanisms, right? And there's ways that you can tie things in together that you couldn't do before with IoT, right? So now that we have robust Wi-Fi everywhere, well, why can't we communicate with color? Most people don't think of the fact that communication with color in a whole new way. For instance, if we have a campus that has sound detection and machine learning and can detect a gunshot, and we have smart lighting that can change color, why wouldn't we direct green lights away from the gun shooter and red lights towards that person, right? So that's all be happening in an automated fashion. So when you talk about connected campuses, it's really about more than just the kiosk and the Wi-Fi. It's about all the things interacting together.
Right.
The Wi-Fi provides that standard connectivity platform.
So what would you say are the challenges for you? It sounds like you guys are doing really well, so I don't want to be overly negative, but what would you like to see happen? Maybe things that could change to make it easier for you?
Right now, it's just more secure, actually just easement on capital and more secure debt. I mean, the more you can do those two things, the faster you can move, because in big cities like Columbus, for instance, or New York City, or, I think even Kansas City with Google, I think these initiatives are all gives. So there's not really like a business model. It's more of we're just going to give all this stuff to the city and then collect a ton of data, and we know how to do that, right? So that's sort of a weird, thing to compete with. So we're trying as a startup to compete with that in a way that's manageable. So it's difficult.
So how do you think all this is going to develop over the next years? We talked already about the opportunity. You have a very positive outlook on it as well, right?
Absolutely. I think Wi-Fi we did a project in another city locally where we had Wi-Fi used, where we actually did synchronized music across the city. So we had an outdoor speaker.
Sorry, go ahead. We missed just a couple of seconds of that, John.
Yeah, we had an outdoor music synchronized system that we did in another city. So it was multiple, like 10, 15 blocks. And we did outdoor wireless speakers in Sonos with Sonos amps. And then we had a wireless receiver and these big wireless shots. And we did synchronized music so we could play Christmas music through the holidays. And then now we play I don't know, Eddie Van Halen or something, on a Saturday afternoon. But that's
good. There's so much creativity also behind what you're doing, which is, I think, really such an essential part of being a startup is all the creativity. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And one of the most interesting things or critical things that I picked up on also in this conversation, I think, is the need for, educating, governments and so on what's actually possible rather than, the standard sort of telecom route to the big vendors and so on, and expanding that view to see, hey, there's a lot of things we can do together, and here's some of them, right?
Absolutely. It's about providing use cases. So we're going to be going out to the West Coast next week, and we'll be talking with a couple universities and, the zoos and, large campuses. And when we do, we're not going to mention the word Wi-Fi, although most of the things that we're doing are enabled by Wi-Fi. So we're also lucky too, because if we were a true startup, we would be, in trouble, where we have Nexigen as this history company that has finances that backs our startup that we started out of it. We're able to leverage that, larger company. So I owning both is it's nice, but so we're not starving, put it that way, right from the get-go. But you're right. It's all about use cases and ability to communicate and solve problems, and Wi-Fi does that. And people talk about Wi-Fi from a technical standpoint and not the use cases or sort of the magic that you can make happen with wireless communication.
John, it's fantastic to have you on the show. We're delighted to have discovered this. Also with some friends, by the way, from Cincinnati Bell, who I should thank also for pointing me in your direction. And we look forward to having you in Washington, D.C. And you are going to bring a unit so people can see what that's about. And I have tremendous expectations for this type of service for cities and the type of solutions that you represent. So thank you so much, John, and we look forward to seeing you in DC.
And I have to shout out to Rob Scott real quick before we end, but thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob Scott, Cincinnati Bell, thanks for connecting all of this. So
absolutely.
Thanks. All right, everybody, that's it for this week's show. Big thanks to Jon Salisbury for joining us. Next week, we will have Cirrus Works on the show, I think, or otherwise we'll have another great company join us. And it's been great that you've been watching us, and please come back to see us again next week. Thanks very much.
Wi-Fi Now is a production of RCR TV News. To suggest a show topic or to learn more about Wi-Fi Now events, you can reach Claus Hetting at klaus@hettingconsulting.com. To find out more about Wi-Fi Now and all things wireless, visit rcrwireless.com.